Welcome to the Race Action in Enterprise and Entrepreneurship live broadcast. I'm your host, Bridget Nzeku. The rise of the Black Lives Matter movement worldwide is forcing society to face up to the injustices of systemic racism. In particular, the spotlight is on the inclusion agenda. Black people are woefully underrepresented in leadership positions in corporates and across businesses in general. I'm delighted to be joined today by a group who'll discuss the barriers faced by Black business owners and entrepreneurs. They'll talk about their experiences of establishing businesses and the practical measures that businesses of all sizes can take to become truly inclusive. My guests today are Izzy Obeng, founder of Foundervine, Christine Adeocean, owner of Echo Food Market Express, Hani Kablawi, Chairman International BNY Mellon, and Roland Guy, Race Action Plan Lead, Lloyds Banking Group. They'll be taking your questions during the broadcast, and you can submit those questions via the panel on your screen. We'd like the speakers to answer as many of your questions as possible, so please start sending those through now. We'll also be running 2 audience polls during today's show, and you can vote. And we would like you to use the second window on your screen to vote. It's the window behind the one you're viewing now. If you'd like to resize both windows, you can participate fully. Izzy, I'd like you to kick off today's discussion. Why is diversity so important in business, and why is it vital to have Black representation within corporate leadership positions?
Absolutely. And hi, Bridget. So there's so much value to be unlocked in an economy where we are building organizations that people actually want to work in, where they feel valued and where they see themselves, their communities and their customers reflected. And in these times that we're in right now, it should be on every single leader's agenda to imagine what a more equitable future looks like. I think way outside of the box, not just for their company, but for society more broadly. And I want to see more leaders imagining what a future looks like where the only barrier to one's progression within their organization or outside of it is their own ambition. How great would that be? And it's certainly not the place we're in at the moment. And getting that racial equity takes investment, and it involves investing in leaders, in more people in decision-making roles in these organizations that can contribute to that future direction, more women in these positions, more Black leaders in these positions, more LGBT plus and so on. And that's when we're going to see the real change in representation, in future leaders seeing what's possible. And I think that's the moment we're really going to be able to see that Britain's changed.
Hani, can I ask you to tell us a bit about BNY Mellon's approach to ensuring Black people are represented at all levels? What actions is your organisation taking? What uncomfortable conversations are you having? What's the approach?
For having us here, Bridget. I think it's first of all starts with a policy and strategy to put ourselves on a pathway to make sure that the company at all its levels of management and staff is representative of the communities in which it operates. And once you say that, then you have to say, well, what are you doing about it? So we've started at the top and have taken and have gone down from there, right? Not just tone at the top, but holding ourselves accountable at the top. Of our 11 board members, 3 are Black and 1 is Latinx. Our board's currently 27% gender diverse and 36% racially, ethnically diverse. And that beats industry benchmarks, whatever industry benchmarks you take, but it's not enough. And we have to continue on that journey. It was important, though, to make sure that we're giving more junior people an ability to look up in the organization, and to Izzy's point, to see people who have made it, who look and talk and come from the same places that they have come from, whatever those places might be. And we talk about cultural diversity, we talk about diversity in languages, in skills, in university settings and educational background. And we extended, to Izzy's point, across the entire spectrum of diversity. And then one last point here before I pass it on to you, Bridget, and that is inclusion. So for everybody to feel like, to Izzy's point, the only thing that stands between them and making it in a company is how hard they work. And the work ethic that they bring to it, that nothing else is going to be a barrier. And so inclusion leads to a feeling of equality, and equality leads to belonging. And those are very powerful things to achieve performance.
Thank you, Hani. Roland, tell us how Lloyds Banking Group is dealing with the challenges around diversity in the workplace.
Of course. Thank you, Bridget. So we spent time listening to many of our Black colleagues to hear their experiences and views on how we can truly create an inclusive environment for everyone. So these conversations have not only helped us to understand the specific issues we must tackle, but also have really brought home that we simply have not made enough progress for them. So there have been some real tough conversations that have happened along the way. So within Lloyds, we announced our race action plan on the 16th of July. And for me, that was a historic milestone in our timeline. So a massive statement of intent that as an organisation, that we stand against racism and we are taking huge drives for sustainable change. So our race action plan, so it's a commitment to continually to look to understand how people feel and addressing the specific challenges faced by Black colleagues here at Lloyds Banking Group, so that we can truly create an inclusive environment for everyone. It's just putting, I guess, a stake in the ground to take a stand for racial equality and against racism and prejudice of any kind. It's about doing the right thing. And as Hani and Izzy have both said, it's about, so seeing people that look like us further up, the food chain, so to speak. And also it makes better business. If we have a more diverse organisation or more diverse structure, it makes much better business.
Thanks, Roland. I'm now going to open up our first audience poll question, and you can find the poll on your second screen. That's the one behind this video if you haven't resized the windows. I'll give you a moment just to find that. Our audience polls are fantastic insight to what the audience is thinking, and we can put that straight to the panel. So please vote. And the question is, what is your biggest challenge when thinking about diversity in your business? What is your biggest challenge when thinking about diversity in your business? And you can answer, don't know where to start, access to diverse talent, access to anti-racism training, implementing pay equality, and all of the above. We look forward to your votes. And while we're waiting for the results to come in, I'd like to come to Christine. Christine, tell us about setting up Eco Food Market Express. What was your journey to setting up this business? And what challenges did you face as a Black business owner?
Thank you very much, Bridget, for this great opportunity. And I will tell you that setting up this business was not a roller coaster. I had two issues that I was being faced with. First, I'm a Black person. Two, I'm a woman. Gender was an issue as well, because setting it up, I needed people to believe in what I was doing, and also being able to find the right products. Lack of funding and resources, being it easy for one to be able to access it was a great barrier as a Black person and as a woman entrepreneur. And those were the issues that I found, setting up this business. But with lots of resilience and moving on, I was able to achieve what I actually wanted to in setting up this business. By the way, Eco Food Market Express, it's a manufacturing outfit and a retail outfit for which I call forward and backward business, which means that we manufacture and we retail it as well, and we also serve other services like schools and other food services. We actually manufacture ethnic food and products like gari and all sorts of African products that people would crave for. But it hasn't been a bed of roses because of my gender and being a Black person. Things didn't come accessible easily for me setting up this business.
Interesting. You refer to this idea of intersectionality, where being both Black and being a woman, those two things intersect and make it more difficult. Give us an example. Why was it more difficult as a Black woman?
Well, people don't take you serious, one, as a woman, and second, as a Black person. I've had instances whereby some 20 years back, when I was looking for premises, and I'd gone out to somewhere in the city to look for a shop. But because the person didn't know I was a Black person, the shop was available. As soon as I got there and he spotted me from afar, I was smiling and I got to him saying that, yes, this is Christine. He said, oh, I thought you were Christian, not Christine. And said, I'm sorry, the shop is gone. Obviously, it was because of my gender and my gender and my race, as soon as he saw that I was Black. There are so many instances whereby things that other people would have gotten very easily or that would have come their way very easily. But because I'm a Black person and I'm a woman, he wouldn't just come my way. And that was quite frustrating. And that would actually make a lot of people just want to stop the race,
And just quickly, Christine, what support did you have access to? Because you talked about being resilient. Was there any support at all?
Well, the support I have is, I would say that more from hard work from myself with lots of prayers and believing in God, and then being able to go back again and again and making people to believe in what I'm doing and who I am was one of the things that actually made me to forge ahead and being able to pass through all this ordeal. So without you having a voice, I had a voice, and I would not keep quiet. I will go over and over, repeatedly on places whereby I've been rejected to kind of redo whatever it is that I presented before, do it in a more better way, and then continually badging on them. And that actually did work for me.
Thanks, Christine. I mean, Roland, it's interesting to hear about Christine's journey of being really determined and having to have that resilience. What is Lloyds Banking Group doing to help Black entrepreneurs and business owners throughout their journey, whether they're at the start of their business or it's established?
Sure. I mean, as Christine highlighted, there are some real systemic barriers and unique challenges that the Black business community face into. And we know at Lloyds we can and must play a greater role externally to combat those barriers and challenges, and to support Black entrepreneurs and to help their businesses to be a success. So how we support Black entrepreneurs, businesses and Black community will be the next phase of our race action plan that I mentioned earlier. As part of that, we'll be looking outward to support clients and communities and ensuring the UK's business landscape becomes fully accessible and inclusive to the Black community. So we'll be carrying out in-depth research, specifically focusing on the Black entrepreneurial and business landscape, understanding the barriers and ways forward at each stage in the life cycle, from early stage education right through to growing and scaling businesses. So the research will help us to create and prioritise the right programme of support, and it will help. We'll have access to some great and valuable insights. But I am also delighted to be working alongside Izzy from Foundervine today, as we've recently begun to work much more closely, and really excited about this. And we're planning to do jointly lots of great stuff in the future, which will be instrumental in helping us to deliver some practical support for Black-owned businesses, particularly those businesses considering their journey for further growth.
Thank you, Roland. Well, we'll ask Izzy about that in a moment. But Hanny, can I ask you, first of all, to tell us about the really strong evidence there is that being a diverse business is good for the bottom line?
Fortunately, Bridget, there's plenty of evidence of that, and I'll maybe start by saying it is intuitive first and foremost, in the sense that the more diverse a group of decision makers are, the more you're likely to get to think of more solutions and to challenge each other to get to a better answer. So plenty of evidence, to your point. Most recently, I've been quoting a McKinsey study from 2019, from last year, showing that companies in the top quartile for ethnic diversity on their executive teams outperformed those in the fourth quartile by 36% in profitability. Now, that is relevant, it is impactful, and it's real, right? Statistically significant, very significant, actually. But again, I go back to the point of it is intuitive. I'm glad that there's plenty of studies out there. BCG has done a few, McKinsey, as I've said, and there are others.
So there's really no excuse, is there? Because ultimately, besides being the right thing to do, it's good for business. It's more profitable.
Absolutely, it's both the right thing to do and the smart thing to do. One of the other studies says that diverse teams or groups, companies with diverse leadership teams are able to generate upwards of 45% of their revenue by capturing new markets. So it takes them in more directions to generate revenue and profitability, to your point, Bridget.
Thank you, Hani. Well, our poll results are in now. Exciting. Let's see what you think. We asked, what is your biggest challenge when thinking about diversity within your business? And here are the results. So 16.6% don't know where to start, and about the same number say access to diverse talent is a barrier. None of you said that you need access to anti-racism training, and this is a very interesting finding. Just 8.3% say implementing pay equality is the issue, but the vast majority, almost 60%, said it was all of these factors. It's a combination of all of these factors. Let's put that to the panel. Izzy, can I come to you first? It's no surprise, is it, that all of these factors are playing into this question?
Yeah, so it's a huge sort of challenge that we face when it comes to building diversity in the workplace, and many of us don't often know what to do. And we found that through our work at Foundervine, speaking to lots of organisations who are trying to address these issues. Part of it is just being brave enough to have the conversation in the first place and bringing your employees, all of them, along on that journey with you.
Hani, can I ask you quickly? A sizable part of the audience said access to diverse talent is the issue. How do you feel about that?
I disagree in the sense that, and I also disagree with don't know where to start, or I'm concerned about the don't know where to start answer. Partly because where there's a will, there's a way. It starts with a will. It starts with the recognition that and Bridget, you've moderated the first part of this panel very well in terms of creating the case for action here, and having done that, there are easily, talking to people like Izzy and Roland and Christine, there are easily 10 things that we could all rattle off right now where people could start. And 10 organizations where people could reach out to and make sure that they can generate the access to talent at all levels of staff, both entry talent coming out of universities, all the way up to board level talent. And it needs conviction and it needs a plan.
I mean, Roland, these results are interesting for Lloyds Banking Group because it shows, doesn't it? If some are saying we don't know where to start, we don't know how to access diverse talent, this is a great opportunity for organisations like Lloyds Banking Group and others to really help.
Completely agree. I completely agree. I think definitely accessing diverse talent is key. Attracting diverse talent is going to be really, really key. And then I guess for me, one of the biggest points is the environment. So creating that environment that attracts the right talent is so important. Because for me, when I look at Black colleagues, our Black colleagues aren't broken. There's nothing wrong with our Black colleagues at all. What needs to be fixed is the environment, so the culture, and making it a culture that is so inclusive that we're instinctively be able to attract the best talent. So my hope is that our Black talented colleagues, we create the environment for them, they talk to their networks, and then we're able to then attract the right people into the organisation.
Christine, I'm just going to come to you briefly. Interesting to reflect on 8% of the audience watching this show say that implementing pay equality is one of the challenges. How do you feel about this idea?
Well, I feel yes. It differs from individual to individual. And I think because there's a lot of bias, in lots of Black people's ability, therefore this particular issue would apply. I also feel that lack of representation of Black people in their area of expertise or in their workplace also would give rise to this particular issue. So I do believe that this is a very key point.
Okay, well, Izzy, let's come back to you. Tell us a bit about Foundervine. When did you start it? Why did you start it? And what is its purpose?
Absolutely. So we are 3 years old as an organisation, and we were founded in 2017 in response to what we saw as a lack of opportunities for young people who were interested in starting a business to actually take those first steps. And we know that one of the greatest routes towards financial inclusion in a society and kind of building capacity within communities is by offering routes to enterprise and to entrepreneurship. And still too often, if starting a business is hard anyway, but if you are someone from a marginalised community, finding the networks and the advice and the support you need to take those first steps can be absolutely daunting. So we set up an organisation that works with local government, corporates and educational institutions to provide opportunities for young people to take their first steps into entrepreneurship and technology. And we're based in the UK and we're running programmes for 3 years now.
And how do you support entrepreneurs and underrepresented groups? What do you put in place?
Yeah, so we recognise that there are systemic issues that prevent some groups from progressing in the same way, and those are often not addressed in mainstream programs that help people kind of start up and learn digital skills. And so what we do is we offer opportunities for young people in schools and universities to gain access to entrepreneurship by running a series of programs designed to help build ideas and designed to help build skills. We then work with more established entrepreneurs to help them to shape businesses and prepare them to generate revenue and to grow and to sort of build teams, operational capacity and so on. And then we help later stage founders who are seeking to either raise investment or to kind of scale significantly. And we introduce them to the partners, the investors and the stakeholders that they need to take their business to the next level. So we support founders at every stage in their journey, from I just need to learn a little bit more about enterprise and digital skills right through to I'm going to raise my second or third round of investment. And we believe being there at every stage of that journey and working with industry to do that is the way that we're going to unlock some of the talent that we need to grow the economy that we need tomorrow.
And we've heard from the audience the kinds of issues that they're thinking about when it comes to diversity in their businesses. What are the issues that come up in the work you're doing? Is it about access to finance? Is it about networks, confidence? What are the barriers or the hurdles that the people you work with are encountering?
Yeah, the challenges are extensive and they've been documented extensively as well. And so a lot of those challenges you mentioned, around access to funding, access to advice networks, those are all real. And something Roland said earlier around inclusion being also very important. We talk about diversity a lot, and there's that great quote, diversity is being asked to the party, but inclusion is being asked if you want to dance. And so often when we talk about diversity, we forget that a lot of entrepreneurs, even though they have access, they don't necessarily have the support and the culture and the infrastructure in place to really grow within the institutions that they're trying to access in whatever way. And for entrepreneurs, we find access to funding is a huge barrier and continues to be a barrier. And a recent report by Extend Ventures, for example, found that in the last 10 years, only 38 Black entrepreneurs had received venture capital funding. That's completely unacceptable. And we see a situation in which Black founders go to venture capital for funding and often leave with advice, and they're too risky or people don't fully understand. And so we've got real systemic issues when it comes to funding. But aside from that, we've still got issues when it comes to accessing corporate supply chains, when it comes to really getting the contextualized advice that you need to grow and building confidence, particularly in women of color. And Christine made some excellent points there, knowing that they can also have access to this and they have, what it takes, and just being given that empowerment and support. So I hope that Foundervine does a lot of that, but we work extensively with partners like Lloyds in order to do that as well.
And just before we go to our next poll, tell us a bit about the partnership with Lloyds.
Yes, so we're really excited about this one. Roland spoke about the Race Action Plan, and we have, as an organisation that works with organisations who are all figuring out what they need to do at the moment, Lloyds has a genuine commitment towards race, not just internally, but externally supporting the communities it serves. So what the relationship looks like with Foundervine is running a series of programs designed to help founders build their investment readiness and get access to the support that they need to grow their businesses and, make contextualize evidence-based decisions about how they can actually grow and kind of raise the funding that they need. So we're really excited about this partnership, and we'll also be working on a panel to look into how diversity can be supported and grown within the kind of wider Lloyds context as well. So lots of interesting work about to kind of start taking place.
Thank you, Izzy. Well, we're going to go now to our second audience poll question. As before, you can vote by clicking the tab marked polls on the second screen. And the question is, what support would you most like to see available to Black business owners? What support would you most like to see available to Black business owners? And you can choose from the following: tailored information and signposting, better access to networks, access to training, mentoring, better access to finance, and all of the above. So once again, we really want to hear what you think. Please vote. While the team crunches the numbers, we'll have a chat again with Roland. Roland, tell us how you see the programme of Lloyds Banking Group evolving as you learn more about the support that's required.
Sure, of course, Bridget. I think the key word there is learn. It's all about learning. So I think it's critical at this time that we are actively listening to Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners, and the Black community, so that we can better understand precisely the challenges being faced and the type of support that would be most beneficial, so that the program developed is spot on and is right for Black businesses. So the recent steps that we've taken with the Race Action Plan and establishing, we've established a race advisory panel, which is made up of colleagues, is an example of what we've done internally when it comes to listening and learning. And what we want to be able to do is actually reflect that same type of infrastructure externally when it comes to understanding Black businesses out there. So part of this learning will be achieved through the initial research that I mentioned earlier. The research will be rolling out a program which will give us the opportunity to measure the progress that we're making, and also to continuously test new ideas, so that we are continuing to enhance the proposition to Black businesses out there.
Hani, I'd like to come to you next. I mean, you spoke right at the start of the show about the record of diversity at BNY Mellon, about senior people of colour in senior leadership positions. What's your advice to businesses watching now who want to emulate what you're doing? What are the practical steps you think they should be taking?
Thanks, Bridget. And I think it is really important to highlight that we ourselves are on a journey. We might have started the journey a few years ago, but the most compelling program is a program that has clear articulation of goals and strategies. And it's really important as part of achieving those strategies that one holds oneself accountable. So our CEO has a commitment to the board that is measurable and trackable, and it's a 3-year commitment and a 1-year commitment, and his performance gets measured on that commitment in terms of continuing to add diversity and to show evidence of inclusion to the board. Now, he then cascades those goals onto us, and so I have my commitments in terms of driving diversity and inclusion in my own management team, and so on and so forth. So I feel pretty strongly about the top-down, both tone as well as well-articulated objectives and strategies and commitments as a starting point coming out of the block to make sure that one sets themselves up for real impact over time. And then I think there is a bottom-up significant bottom-up contribution that can happen around the point of inclusion, equality, and belonging. We really need to be listening to our employee base and make sure that these aren't just numbers on paper, that the opportunities truly are being provided. And so whether it's in recruitment, in development, in mentoring, and in sponsorship. So one of the things that we've done is we've created an EC, an executive committee sponsorship program for diverse talent to make sure that diverse candidates for management positions feel like there is somebody in the hierarchy looking out for them and making sure that they're being invested in and that they're being given opportunities across the firm. There's a few other things that we do, Bridget, but I think just in terms of tracking and measurement and facts and data, these are probably some of the more significant ones.
Interesting, very interesting, Hani. Christine, what's your advice to people of colour who want to set up a business and feel that there's this overwhelming mountain to climb in front of them? Because you've scaled that mountain.
That's correct. I think most importantly, you need to be focused. You need to know exactly what you want, how you want to do it, how you want to deliver it. And do not allow anything to sway you or to make you deviate from what your focus is. If you are focused, you are going to make it through. But if you're not sure exactly what you want, then you're going to be looking at different scenarios.
I think we might have a problem with your sound, Christine. Let me quickly go to Izzy. Izzy, I saw you nodding vigorously while Hani was speaking and while Christine was speaking. Hani was mentioning, having targets and goals and objectives, making people accountable and responsible for delivering them. Are these the kinds of things you're saying to organisations who work with your entrepreneurs and founders?
Absolutely. I think now more than ever, this is the moment where organisations really have to put their impact where their mouth is. And it's very nice, hosting sessions and putting statements out and saying all the right things. But it's another thing committing to long-term, multi-year change and putting targets and numbers behind it, because you can't argue with targets and numbers, and you can hold organizations accountable for that. And so it's so fantastic to hear what BNY are doing. And I think that on Christine's point of just being really focused, I think for entrepreneurs I speak to who manage to really overcome a lot of these barriers and kind of grow the organizations they're building, it is it's a determination and a kind of obsession with overcoming a lot of barriers and stereotypes and all of those things to just build something that customers love and that they can really make sustainable. And that's the key. It's kind of looking beyond these challenges as much as you can and really thinking how collectively as society and how as an individual we can do what we can to overcome them as well. So that really resonates with me.
Thanks, Izzy. Well, our second poll results are in. We asked you, what support would you most like to see available to black business owners? And here are the results. So none of you was particularly looking for tailored information and signposting, but everyone responded to the other answers in the poll. 18.5% or 18.7% said access to networks is a huge issue, and that was the second most important area for you. 12.5% said training and leadership skills. 6.25% said mentoring was important. A quarter of you, however, said access to finance. Now, we'll definitely talk to the panel about that in a moment. And 37.5% said all of the above. So the most important, or the largest group of you said all of these factors were important, but access to networks and access to finance have come out ahead. Let's go back to our panel and see if there's any surprise there. Roland, you will be taking particular note of findings like this so it can shape the race action plan of Lloyds Banking Group. But of course, many organisations will also be running these kinds of race action plans. What do you think about the priorities here that the audience have put to us?
I think first and foremost that the priorities have been hugely, massively insightful. Really, really important that we get this right and we understand. I think I've mentioned a couple of times that listening is really important here to ensure that we get it right and so that we can involve our proposition in the right way. So I'm really grateful for the insight that has come through today. Particularly interested in access to finance, training, networks, and on one of the previous poll questions around talent. I think that's all really, really important. And within Lloyds, it will help us to further build our race action plan.
I'm hoping that your sound is back to normal. I'm going to come to you next. A quarter of the audience said better access to finance. I mean, this has come up a number of times during just this debate. When you were starting out, what was finance like as an issue for you? Did you have any problems accessing finance? Was that straightforward?
No, it wasn't at all. It was the most difficult part because obviously if you're starting out a business and you don't have support financially and there's no access to it, you're not going anywhere. And I remember that most of the time whereby I've had orders from large companies and I do not know how to have access to finance, or there is nobody willing to learn. We've actually had to borrow from friends and families. We've at one point sold our house, and the proceeds of it was what we used in starting the business. I mean, we've gone through a lot trying to get this business going. And access to finance is very key because, as I said, it's a barrier for Black people and as well as a woman in this game. It's very difficult, but we scaled through it with the fact that we were focused and we were so sure of what we wanted, and we marched along.
Izzy, access to finance is difficult, but if you have no access to networks, does that compound the problem of no access to finance? Do you need the network so that you can get the finance?
Yes, they definitely go hand in hand. And that quote, your network is your net worth. And funding is one thing, funding is money, but your network is wealth. And the more you're able to cultivate networks, the kind of longer term, you'll be able to kind of find the support financially or otherwise that you need to grow. And so often what can happen is that kind of short-term focus on providing founders with funding maybe kind of it makes us overlook the investment we need to make in networks. In our case, we do that through hosting conferences and events that just bring people together. And we know that when it comes to investors, for example, you're 10 times more likely to raise funding from a warm introduction. How do you get a warm introduction? You build the kinds of relationships where people feel confident introducing you to other people. And that can only come with being given the opportunity to cultivate a network. So for me, the networks piece is almost more important than that funding piece, because funding is a kind of something that comes from being able to build great networks.
Thank you. And Hani, mentoring was also a really important finding in this live poll that we've run today. Is there a mentoring set up at BNY Mellon? What have you observed in terms of mentoring outside of your organisation also?
There is. So we have mentoring programs across the company, especially within our employee and business resource groups, including our ethnic diversity resource group. So we make sure that we reach out and assign mentors to mentees at different levels of management. And our evidence would show, our own studies internally would show that our ability to retain and develop and grow diverse employees, any employee, frankly, is correlated to having official formal mentoring programs. As I said earlier, we've now extended out the mentoring relationship on a selected basis to a sponsorship type relationship at higher levels of management. So to the managing director and director level employees, where EC executive level committee members are sponsoring, which extends a little bit beyond mentoring in the sense that they're actually keeping an eye on the career and trajectory of diverse employees. We are also involved in external mentoring programs. We provide both mentees and mentors into the 30% club, which is a gender diversity group across the industry and across a number of countries, actually. And we've been part of that mentoring program for a number of years now. I'd love to extend it out to make sure that we're reaching out across the industry to other institutions that are willing to establish mentoring programs to ethnic diversity or diverse talent as well.
I'm sure Izzy will have listened with great interest to that offer, and I'm sure she'll be taking it up, as may many in the audience. Hani, before we go to the audience and take their questions, what are your personal reflections on this important subject? And do you think the global change we're seeing at the moment is going to have long-term lasting impact?
I do. So I'm fairly passionate about this topic, Bridget, as sometimes can come across here. I was born to Palestinian refugees in Liberia, and I was brought up in Lebanon, Kuwait, Dubai, and eventually immigrated to the United States with only one goal in mind, and that is to rid myself of the stateless status that I had, and to find the right set of opportunities that might put me on a pathway towards a citizenship of a country that can give me a passport that would open up opportunity both to travel more freely, but also very importantly to gain employment more competitively, to put me at more competitive par, if you will, with others who were born into a citizenship or a passport. that accorded them those opportunities. So, look, I've spent the past 20 years or so developing my own career, and over the past 10 years or so, felt passionately enough about the topic of creating equal opportunity for people of all backgrounds, giving everybody an equal start. To Izzy's point, all the way up front, actually, giving everybody an equal start, no matter what barriers they might have grown up with, and to give them the ability, the recognition, the realization that actually the only thing that gets in between them and the top of any house is actually the work ethic. Now, the industry isn't there yet. We have a lot of work to do to create that sort of a equal opportunity for everybody, and I'm certainly and BNY Mellon, right? But I'm certainly personally very committed to trying and to try and do that.
Well, your passion definitely comes across, as does the passion of all of you, and we're getting a response from the audience now. If you haven't yet submitted a question to the panel, there's still time. So please submit it. You can use your screen, the panel on your screen, to submit the question, and we will put it live to our panel. The first question is for you, Christine. And this question says, to what extent is your confidence a key contributing factor to the progress you've made? And how can organisations support a lack of confidence? Christine?
Yes, thank you very much. I think my confidence is what has taken us to this, to the level where I am at the moment, because one, I remain focused. Two, I was not moved by anything that was distracting me in form of lack of funding or resources, or lack of people being biased towards me as a Black person. I have the confidence in my product. I have the confidence in my ability. I have the confidence in who I am and what I want to become and the level that I intend to take African food. And those were the things that actually made me to stand and being able to be resilient and to forge ahead. And I think for companies, you will probably need to, companies might need to train people to boost their confidence in them being sure of who they are, and self-esteem, to boost self-esteem of their employees or the people that they work with who are also in this kind of situation. Good networking, good communication, good representation in any area whereby they are sending their employee out. They need to make them feel good. They need to make them feel wanted and part of the group. I mean, inclusive. An enabling environment is also going to boost the confidence of the people, especially with lots of training and continuous appraiser to make them feel good.
Thanks, Christine. Izzy, can I get you to pick up on that, actually? What is the importance of training? Because people who aren't confident, believing in yourself is part of it, but be able to present that, communication training, presentation training, and then knowing who to present yourself to. Are these all areas that Found Divine helps with?
Absolutely. And the recent report from the British Business Bank found that in terms of access to training for individuals from diverse backgrounds, they were, much less likely to be able to access the kind of relevant support that's needed to grow businesses further. And a huge part of our work is training, yes, but just touching on Christine's point about those enabling environments, that's a big one. So bringing people into a setting in which they are trained by people who look like them, who share similar lived experiences, they are mentored by these people, they have the ability to network and build relationships and build that confidence and self-esteem whilst getting the advice and the knowledge that they need. That's the kind of magic combination that leads to entrepreneurs having the tools and the mindset to achieve the outcomes that they want. So training is so huge, but it can never really happen in isolation, and it needs to be fully contextualized to the needs of the community that you're supporting. And that's where we come in with the kind of work that we do. Thank you.
Hani, we have a question for you from the audience. What are your diversity commitments and those of your CEO as mentioned? You did mention these earlier, but can you just go through them again?
Yes, I mean, so it is to represent the community in which we operate internally, meaning the fabric of the company, the tapestry of the company, the diversity numbers within the company have to look like the community in which we operate. And we operate in upwards of 35 markets around the world, and we have 48,000 employees at many levels of management. And so our long-term goal is to make sure that we are representing the society in which we operate. Now, we can do that easier where we have the facts and the data. And it's a reality, 50% of society are women. We are trying to achieve 50% of our staff at all levels of management to be women over time. And, you know, in the US, 13% of society is Black. Right now, 27% of our board is Black. We have 2 Black women on our smaller executive committee. But we need to continue to push the boundaries, to push the envelope, and to make sure that we achieve better outcomes. Now, my own commitments start with my benchmark, where I currently stand from a management committee perspective, and I have to achieve certain numbers. We are not making those public, but please trust that those numbers are actually in my performance management system, something that I have to deliver within the year. And if I don't, there are impacts to my performance rating and to my compensation.
Interesting. Izzy, do you think more companies need to tie these kinds of objectives to incentives and performance ratings? Because that makes it very real for individuals, doesn't it?
It does make it very real, and it signifies a huge and significant commitment towards the change that we need to see. And it warms my heart what Hani's just said, because there is one thing putting nice to have kind of thoughts out there about what's needed diversity wise, but it's another thing saying to individuals that leadership is seriously committed to this and will reward but also penalise individuals who do not take the steps that they need to take, particularly at the middle management level, who are so important because they are impacting on the performance management of these employees, the recruitment of these employees, they're managing the culture of their teams. And if they know that it's embedded within the structures that govern their performance and their compensation, then diversity starts to be something we see as fundamental to the management of a business and not just something that sits outside of it that's nice to do. So that's the level of commitment that we need to see.
Thank you, Izzy. We have a question here which Hani has already partially answered. Roland, I'm going to put this question to you. How can organisations and government work together to assess systemic challenges for Black communities?
I think how can we do it? I think there's lots that we need to do. And I talked a bit about the environment before. And I think so within Lloyd's, we're doing lots when it comes to, increasing senior Black representation. But the biggest challenge, or the bigger challenge, is culture and the environment. And then not just the environment within Lloyd's, but the environment that we all operate in, society. I think it's key that we work. I think it's key that we share the learnings. So I think it's key that Hani, there's myself from a Lloyd's Banking Group perspective, that we're able to have this open dialogue with the government to better understand actually how do we lean into these challenges and how do we make change, lasting change. And I don't think this is going to be a quick fix. I think we're looking at hundreds of years of systemic inequality. But again, I think the focus shouldn't be just on Black people to sort this out. It should be on everyone to absolutely want to make the change for the better.
Christine, question for you here. Who do you turn to for support with your business? What are the networks, mentors and other resources that you're using at the moment?
Okay, thank you very much. At one stage, Lloyd's Bank believed in me and they supported very well. through the fact that they have this program, which I don't think most of the banks have, by having a relationship manager who actually have an in-depth knowledge of the kind of business that you run. They come out to you, they assess your business, and they work together with you to make sure that your needs are met. And I think that has worked very well for me. And also, we, along the line, have formed our own group of networking amongst our own community, in church, in smaller groups of people who do exactly the same thing that we do, or people that have like minds like us, who are entrepreneurs. We share things amongst ourselves, information, and we even go to the extent of having seminars, like in churches, or within the community. I am being called several times, and I also attend several seminars whereby it's been delivered by people who have gone through challenges that I have gone through, or that I'm going through it, or that those people who can actually give you more information on how to work things out. And that has been very helpful within the community, the church community, and the community itself. So I've actually tapped into those ones, which has helped me up onto this level. But most importantly, I think meeting Lloyds Bank at some point has given me a very good opportunity to hear my voice, to promote my business, to promote my product, and they haven't stopped.
Thank you, Christine. I'm going to ask each of you to answer this question really quickly, actually. So this is a quick fire round. And starting with Hani, what is the future of the black economy?
Well representative of the society in which we operate. In every company, and at all levels of management.
What is the future of the black economy? Izzy, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't hear my name. What is the future of the black economy? The future of the black economy is a lot more empowerment, in which individuals, regardless of their background, but including people who come from black communities, have the resources and the tools that they need to individually grow businesses, but to scale collective power and come together to petition, to lobby, to get the support they need to grow their communities further, as well as enrich their own lives. I think that's what we need to see.
Thank you, Izzy. Roland, what is the future of the black economy?
Well, Izzy has just taken the words right out of my mouth. I guess the only thing I could say over and above what Izzy has said is if we have strong, talented entrepreneurs like Christine, who I've been really, really inspired by today, more entrepreneurs like Christine, then I feel really, really hopeful.
And lastly, Christine, but not least, what's the future of the black economy, Christine?
I think together we push a lot, and by ourselves we do little. And therefore, the future of the black economy is that we work together, we network together, we support one another, not just black people, but finding others to understand who we are and to make them realize that indeed we have a voice.
Thank you, Christine. That's all we have time for today. I'd like to thank our speakers, Izzy Obeng, Christine Adeosun, Roland Guy and Hani Kablawi. Your insight and your ideas will be invaluable not just to black business owners and entrepreneurs, but to any organisations who want to accelerate change. Thank you all very much. And thank you to you, our audience, for watching today's live broadcast. Can I ask you to take a few minutes to fill out the feedback questionnaire, which you'll find on your second screen. That's the screen that you used to vote. Your feedback helps us to shape our future broadcasts, and we very much hope you'll join us in the future for more of these broadcasts. Just a reminder that a recording of today's show will be available shortly, and we hope that you'll watch again and also take the opportunity to share the recording with colleagues, family and friends. Until next time, bye-bye.